When I tell a friend I'm headed to Glacier National Park in western Montana, I'm met with the wide-eyed gaze of a man who has experienced nature at its most pristine and longs to return. Amazing, he says. Stunning. Oh yeah, I say, what should I see? He thinks for a minute, then says, everything. The one thing I do know is I don't have time to visit everything. Glacier National Park is as big as the sky is blue, and I'm only here for 4 days. So I've asked Glacier Country Tourism to show me around this diverse and breathtaking park. They've gone a step further by putting together an itinerary for me that starts at Whitefish Lake, which is where I find myself on a perfect September afternoon, slightly surprised to be watching a skier in the water. I associated Montana with many sports, but not what goes on at Whitefish Lake in the summer. Turns out western Montana has a little bit of Florida in its blood. I find out quickly that Glacier Country is a place where you can transition from boat to tour bus to raft in a matter of minutes. My next stop is the middle fork of the Flathead River on the southern boundary of Glacier National Park. This is where I'm meeting Ryan Thompson of Glacier Raft Company, Montana's oldest raft company.
We have so many different types of terrain and different wild places packed into a relatively small area. Montana is a huge state, but you know, the western third of the state where a lot of our mountains are and a lot of the rivers tends to lend itself to gravity-fed activities like, you know, skiing, rafting, kayaking, mountain biking, and you can find, you know, all those activities in a relatively small radius.
Before moving on, I asked Ryan to describe his ideal summer day.
I'd take my kayak out, you know, middle of July is fantastic because you can paddle in the morning and fish in the afternoon. It's really easy to, you know, just walk down to the river and wade fish or get with some buddies and hop in a boat and float and fish for an afternoon.
After leaving Ryan, I head to Big Fork Village and take in some of the sights before checking into the Mountain Lake Lodge, a 30-suite hotel overlooking Flathead Lake. The next morning, I wake to overcast skies but the promise of Glacier National Park and more outrageous views. There are lots of ways to see the landscape here. Trains, buses, your own 2 feet, but motorcycles are one of the most popular. You'll often see motorcyclists cruising scenic byways like the Going to the Sun Road. We enter the park at its west end and stroll through Apgar Village before checking out Lake McDonald Lodge on the banks of Glacier National Park's largest lake. Boat tours depart from the dock at Lake McDonald Lodge and bring visitors to the lake's west shore to see some of its most scenic and remote terrain.
When people first started coming here, back when this became a park in 1910, the average visitor stayed for 3 months. Today, the average visitor to the park stays for 3 hours.
I feel like my 4 days are flying by, so when the boat docks, I hurry to catch a red bus tour to Logan Pass, 6,664 feet up on the Continental Divide.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Glacier National's red convertible top buses have been taking visitors around the park since the late 1930s. As we snake through the glaciers, watching the earth fall off beneath us, I can't help but feel like I've been transported back in time.
First of all,
that evening, I check into the lodge at Whitefish Lake, a throwback to the great lodges of the past and a wonderful place to toast a day filled with new experiences. My 3rd day in Glacier National Park, I board an Amtrak train in Whitefish. We roll past Goat Lick, the Bob Marshall Wilderness, Isaac Walton Inn, and the middle fork of the Flathead River.
This is Lincoln Creek coming out right here, very cool place. There's a little cabin up there about a quarter of a mile. That back in the Prohibition days, they used to make moonshine over there, and then the train used to come through here, and the lady'd run the moonshine across and deliver it to the train.
As the train climbs, we see that yesterday's rain has turned to a paradoxical blanket of snow. Every moment, I find myself more and more in awe of this park. I depart the train at East Glacier, a small town on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, and the border of Glacier National Park. I then head over to Glacier Park Lodge to meet with Cindy Avianov of Glacier Park Incorporated, a concessionaire in the park. I ask her about the park's many turn-of-the-century lodges.
I think the thing I like most about the lodges, and the thing that I think people like most about them these days, is the lobbies. The lobbies were built for people to connect with one another.
I then asked Cindy why she finds this park so captivating.
We really do have an east and a west side. The east side is Rocky Mountains, very rugged, pine trees, lots of rocks. Where the west side is more rainforest-like, has ferns and cedar trees. And all you have to do is drive to go into the Sun Road, and in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can go from the east to the west or vice versa. And it's quite a wonderful experience.
Before leaving East Glacier, I stop in at Glacier Impressions Gallery to speak with popular wildlife photographer Tony Bynum. If anyone knows where to find a picturesque view, I would imagine he does.
The roads on the east side of the park all go to spectacular locations. If you don't like to hike and you don't want to get out, you can drive to the end of the roads going into the park, and there's a scene there that is breathtaking on any one of the roads.
Bynum also tells us to check out Many Glacier, one of the best spots in the park for wildlife sightings. This area is home to the 214-room Many Glacier Hotel, which was built in 1915 and stoically overlooks Swift Current Lake. Around here, summers mean kayaking on the lake and trail rides in the backcountry. My final day in Glacier Country, I find myself on the newly opened Whitefish Trail. Whitefish may be best known for its ski slopes, but it's now got 20 miles of mountain biking trails to match.
We've got everything from free riding to long alpine rides up in the mountains at 7,000 feet.
So I spend my last few hours in western Montana on a backcountry bike trail in Whitefish, envying those folks who used to come here for 3 months, but cherishing my few days. I don't know when I'll be back, but having spent some time here, I now know what to see when I inevitably do return. Everything.